after I graduated, I had a year of sobriety at that point. Lost my entire support system. My best friend got married and moved away. Overcommitted, overfunctioning, zero self-care. And that's when the sexual addiction came back. And it was in that place when I wondered, have I healed at all? Have I grown at all? What I discovered was that I had a certain amount of freedom that was quite limited. Sexual fantasies that I had always focused on were still lurking in the background. And I still didn't know why. And I still had never really dealt with the roots of all this.
Partner betrayal is disorienting, heartbreaking, and results in absolute confusion for the betrayed partner. You worry that nothing in your life was real, and you fear that you will never be able to trust your spouse or yourself again. Well, welcome to the Rebuilding Trust podcast with Carol the Coach. I'm Carol Jurgensen Sheets, aka Carol the Coach, and what I can promise is that when you listen to my podcast, you'll begin to believe that there is hope. We will be hearing from experts all over the world who specialize in problematic sexual behavior, sex addiction, and infidelity. Together, we will be asking them the hard questions about how you both can rebuild safety, find strengths, grieve and mourn what you had, what you never had, and what you fear you will never find again. The truth is that rebuilding trust is possible, and I am going to show you the steps to working together to build a whole new marriage based on the honesty, authenticity, and transparency that your marriage deserves. Rebuilding Trust with Carol the Coach.
Well, welcome to Rebuilding Trust. I am so happy you're with me. Because I have one of my favorite people on. I know I say that a lot, but Drew Boa, you are.
Thanks, Carol.
We got to really know each other at the summit last year, and I just find your work is profound. There's something about, I believe, that spiritual nature of who you are, and the fact that you so articulately describe what you've been, that the empathy is just overwhelming for how you treat addicts, how you feel towards partners. I'm so glad that you're so young so that you can keep doing this and just expand.
Well, thank you so much, Carol. And the men in my community were gushing about the compassion they felt from you at that summit. So I'm glad we're on the same page of kindness is the answer, not more self-hatred.
Yeah. Well, and I know that we are going to be talking about outgrowing porn by virtue of your new book,
Woohoo!
Outgrow Porn. And of course, the pacifier is so metaphoric, right? But would you tell our listening audience a little bit about that summit? Because if I'm not mistaken, does that happen every January?
Yes, it's called The Porn Free Man. It's a free online conference, and it will be opening up for registration soon at thepornfreeman.com.
Beautiful. That's the other thing I like about Drew, is that he offers quite a few free resources. Right. And I know that when I was trained, Patrick Carnes would always say to me, charge what an attorney charges. You know, they're in trouble. You're a specialist. And just like an attorney, charge what you believe you deserve. And although I remember sitting back and thinking, I got that, that's almost a coaching tool. I also know that these people have been through so much already financially. Either they've taken that hit from buying porn or looking at porn, which escalated into web chats and way other things, or they've spent so much money on residential treatment, 2 or 3 or 4 counselors. And so I love that you really offer a lot of free resources. Let them know what your website is, because I love the name.
Thanks. It's called Husband Material, husbandmaterial.com, where we have a free private community, weekly podcasts and videos. And then that conference every January is also free. And then we do one in July. So we want to help as many men as possible achieve lasting freedom from porn, but more than that, to become mature sexually and emotionally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, whenever I'm talking to couples and I start reframing what looks like is sexually addictive behaviors and partners want so much more, and I say, well, let's see if we can give both of you some tools for connection. And I believe that now that he's not using, that arrested development can begin to grow again, and they can learn a lot of emotional maturity individually and together that they never even had before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. So what made you write, Outgrow Porn, Find Lasting Freedom from Porn Without Fighting an Exhausting Battle?
It all came from my story of being free from internet porn for the past 10 years. But more than a number, what matters to me is that it doesn't have power over me anymore. It's like a pacifier that I learned how to use when I was a little boy that stayed with me until I no longer need it anymore. Because I have better ways of meeting my needs. And I think that is the hope of the book, that you would not just be fighting a battle against yourself for the rest of your life, but getting to a point where I've outgrown the behavior. It doesn't do the same thing for me that it used to do. And so it came from my own personal story, as well as learning from so many other professionals in the field who have paved the way for us to understand our brains better, for us to understand sexual fantasies better, for us to be able to heal at the deepest level.
Well, and you admit in the book that you became free from porn for a while, and then you relapsed again.
Yeah.
And so will you tell us just a little bit about that?
Yeah. It was the year 2014 when I graduated from college, and I had a year of sobriety at that point. And after I graduated, I lost my entire support system. My best friend got married and moved away. I was overcommitted, overfunctioning, zero self-care. And that's when the sexual addiction came back. And it was in that place when I wondered, have I healed at all? Have I grown at all? Has it all been just an illusion? And what I discovered was that I had a certain amount of freedom that was quite limited, because the same sexual fantasies that I had always focused on were still lurking in the background. And I still didn't know why. And I still had never really dealt with the roots of all this. And that's what sent me on a journey into my childhood, to do what I say in chapter 1 of the book: heal the boy to free the man.
Yeah. And I know that is so inspiring, because we all know this is the hardest addiction to master and conquer. And your point is in the book that you don't really have to master and conquer it. You have to look at it differently and develop some tools that take you to other places that, frankly, recalibrate the brain and develop new neural circuitry.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about, first of all, how do you define pornography and why you feel it's problematic?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question, because a lot of people will say, if I don't struggle with porn, is this book for me? I use the term porn as a shorthand term to describe a wide variety of different problematic sexual behaviors. Formal porn would be any media created for the intention of sexually arousing people. Functional porn is any media that is consumed for the intention of sexual arousal. So a picture of anything or anyone can be functionally pornographic. And in my case, that matters a lot because my sexual fetish for braces and orthodontics would not qualify as formal porn. But for me, it was functioning as porn. And everybody is attracted to very specific, particular sexual stimuli. And when it comes to addiction, those particulars are usually very significant. So even if it's not going to a website and paying to watch a video, we're still outgrowing the things that keep us coming back to the same old behaviors.
And so in the book, you have a diagram of, it's a piece of ice that we know also has a bottom. You know, it's not just what we see on the top. It's like an iceberg that also has this big bottom. And you begin to talk about arousal and explain that diagram, because I thought metaphorically that gave people hope, especially when you talk about the tools.
Yes. So arousal and desire are two distinct experiences that often overlap, but we need to understand the difference between arousal and desire. Arousal is the surface level sexual symptom of being irresistibly attracted to someone or to a specific type of porn. That's just the surface level. So the arousal would be to a certain body part, to a certain personality, or to a certain age, for example. That's all arousal. When you look under the surface at the soul level of what's underneath that, what do I desire underneath my arousal? We find things like acceptance, affirmation, safety, connection, to be seen, to be soothed, to be pursued. These are the soul level desires that we need to be able to access so that we can outgrow constantly pursuing the arousal.
Yeah. And in the book, you call them soulful needs. They're desires, but they are soulful needs. And this iceberg that he has developed, he references pornography, but truly the iceberg describes sexual energy.
Yeah.
And so arousal in and of itself isn't bad.
Right.
But it's what happens to brain lock in that need for arousal, which really is that need for, as you call it, the soulful needs, the soulful desires.
Another way to say it would be attachment needs. You know, the relational needs that we all have that sometimes get sexualized.
Well, and I know you've done that inner child work, and I know, Jay Stringer, Eddie Caparucci, all those guys, you all work together to help men to figure out what didn't get met early on and how they can grow themselves up, which also hopefully outgrows porn. Now, I told you before we even started the show, I said, I'm telling you, your divine desires list is an incredible tool to help not just men with or women with problematic sexual behavior, but the coupleship to get stronger and connect and develop more emotional maturity in their relationship. So will you go over some of those divine desires?
We all have these divine desires. They're God-given, deep longings. And I've got a list of 40 of them. And each one corresponds oftentimes to a story of suffering where that desire was not met. So one of my deepest designed divine desires is acceptance, the desire to be accepted. Well, what's the opposite of that? Being rejected. So I can tell you lots of stories of rejection from my life. that have deepened that desire and ache to be accepted. So whatever we desire the most is often a clue about how we've suffered the most. And however we've suffered the most often shows what we desire the most. For example, the desire for community is often very strong for people who have a story of isolation or of loneliness. Like we all have that desire, but it's stronger when you haven't had it fulfilled.
Well, and I 100% agree with that. And that's what I felt was so hopeful about this list. And the fact that, again, you're talking attachment. And I think back to my own certified sex addiction training. And we learned that although there's certainly lots of people that have been abused physically, emotionally, sexually, the larger number have been neglected. So they've never had those attachment needs met. Right?
Yeah. And
so your story, Drew, about being overwhelmed in college, getting out and getting really busy and feeling overwhelmed. And it's like your life went so fast that maybe using porn slowed it down a bit when you relapsed again.
Yeah, I would describe it as my whole system and environment and community that was regulating me was suddenly gone. And I had no regulation apart from those souvenirs from adolescence, those fantasies and behaviors that I took with me into adulthood were still there when nothing else was. So to put that in terms of desire, it's like I was in college experiencing acceptance with my peers, with my mentors, with God, even in my spiritual practices. I was experiencing my desires fulfilled. One of the things Eddie Caparucci says is watch out for being drained. Watch out for deprivation. When instead of your desires being met, all of a sudden you're in a drought. It's like a desert. And that's when we're most susceptible to risky behavior or sexually acting out. So this paradigm of divine desires, it gives us something to pursue instead of just something to avoid. Instead of just avoiding what's bad, we are learning to receive what's good, what we truly needed all along.
And so then, how did you find your truth? In the book, you talk about it. How, especially at a young age, when I believe, especially males, have not necessarily been given the tools to recalibrate and form attachments and find acceptance within themselves.
Yeah. A lot of it happened for me in a group where I could share the specifics of what I was struggling with, because the power's in the particularity. It's not just porn in general. It's always a specific type of person or people and specific activities that we need to
That was
talk
a draw.
about. Yeah, that was a draw. So finding a safe place to just talk about it was a huge place where I found my truth. They say the truth will set you free. Well, the truth spoken out loud in a group of people where there's safety and compassion, that was a huge turning point for me. And then it was actually watching a YouTube video of Patrick Carnes talking about sexual development that first led me to understand it's not the adult Drew who's being triggered. It's a younger part of me. It's the 13-year-old. It's the 16-year-old. And so rather than fighting against that part of me, I can befriend that part of me and get to know it better.
Yeah, he really is the guru of problematic sexual behavior. He calls it sex addiction. And he's 83 and he's still at it. He's slowed down quite a bit, but he is still working with us to get better. And you're a PSAP. And can you tell our listening audience what a PSAP is?
It's a pastoral sex addiction professional. ITAP decided that they wanted to train more people who are in religious leadership roles or ministry leadership roles, who are not doing diagnosis or assessment of treatment, but who still want to learn more of the clinical side of sex addiction and be able to help in various contexts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe that training does exactly what you said, as well as it teaches pastors and people in that capacity how not to pastorally traumatize their clients, whether it's couples, you know me, that's my specialty, or the addict himself or herself. And they've got a big conference coming up this month, and I'm speaking at it. Imagine that.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Well, the clergy are typically the first level of confession, and that you don't have to be Catholic. I mean, couples come in, addicts come in and talk to their pastors and say, I'm sinning, I'm doing this, I don't know how to get out. So the more pastoral care knows about what's out there, I always say, when we know better, we do better. Right, Drew?
Yeah. So that training really opened my eyes and got me started on understanding the centrality of trauma in all this.
Yeah, it's interesting because you have husband ministries, husband materials. I mean, your pastoral background has really aided in your gifts. But for anybody who's listening, Drew is spiritual through and through without necessarily preaching.
That's the hope.
Yeah. Although you do have a chapter in here.
Yeah.
And it's a story. And can you tell them about, what was that? It had a picture of Jesus and...
Oh, yeah. That's right. The healing triangle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tell them what that meant to you. I mean, this entire book is really forward thinking. If you've read on sexual addiction, problematic sexual behavior, compulsivity, you've probably read some of the greats, but this, I'm telling you, this book is the new, it's from a new thought leader. I mean, you've been around for a while, but the more you write, the better you get.
Thank you, Carol. I received that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, this healing triangle is my favorite thing about the whole journey. The triangle is the most powerful shape. It's the strongest foundation that there is in all the shapes of the triangle. And when I started to engage with my inner child and my inner teenager, I noticed that there were three relationships that were forming. One was between me and my inner child. Mm-hmm. And the other one was between my inner child and Jesus, in addition to me and Jesus. And early in my recovery, it was just me and Jesus. And I didn't realize that there was something missing. There was this relationship that needed to happen with these younger parts of me. And so oftentimes in a session with some of my clients or men in my community, they will have an inner experience of connecting with the little boy within them and with Jesus, sometimes in a group hug. And it's so beautiful. Tears can be flowing. But in any case, it's very integrative. And sometimes when I'll ask a man, how do you feel towards your inner child? When you look at a picture of yourself when you were a boy, how do you feel toward him? And they feel shame. Sometimes they feel anger. Sometimes they don't want anything to do with that boy. But they might have a view of God or of Jesus that's much more loving and caring. So when we invite Jesus into that experience, sometimes everything changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a beautiful representation. And you said the triangle, and of course, I thought Jesus, God, and the Holy Spirit.
Right, the Trinity.
Another important triangle.
Yeah.
But I'm actually bringing this up because we do have a lot of clients that are agnostic and atheists, and that's not for them. And 12-step work can feel tedious at best because the first 3 steps, obviously in 12-step work, is basically acknowledging that a power greater than yourself has got to restore you to sanity. And then you have to ask for that to happen. And I feel like your book really shows our readers, our listeners, it can show them how they can work through and outgrow porn. I really, really do. From any place that they want to. But what comes across strongest is you have to be able to form attachments, and your attachments have to be reconciled from your childhood.
Yes. Attachment within yourself, attachment with other people, with friendships. If you're married, attachment as a coupleship, and an attachment with God, with your higher power, attachment spiritually as well. And so those 4 different attachments, I think, are all resources to draw upon.
And I remember reading in the book, you had talked about how powerful it was to really get in touch with nature. And if you look at Drew's website or you go to his resources page, I mean, you got nature all over the place. You have mountains in the background and lakes. I mean, nature is a really big resource for you, isn't it?
It is a huge resource. For me, it's daily regulating my nervous system. And that's what it's all about. Even if you don't live in a place surrounded by natural beauty, even just going outside for a walk can be so regulating. You get the bilateral stimulation of moving both sides of your body. It automatically deepens your breathing. Even just observing the cars going by can be a form of mindfulness. So your whole system is changing its physical state, oftentimes based on our surroundings, and in our increasingly digital disembodied existence. There's a lot of value in getting back to nature.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you the $1 million question, which is so many of the men and women that I struggle with, because listening audience, this used to be a male thing. And then in working with couples, there were certainly a lot of women that appeased their husbands by looking at pornography until they couldn't anymore. And then in the last 20, 25 years, we've got college kids who have co-ed pornography parties. They watch it together while they're drinking and chatting it up and maybe using substances, maybe not. But the point is they're looking at it together at parties as part of their culture. And, our friend Noah Church, who has also wanted to help that age group, has statistics that say we have a lot of men in this country who don't know how to form relationships. And sexuality is so much easier by oneself or with the use of porn than it is to really go out there and risk and attempt and fail to love and to form that relationship. So my question to you is, what do you tell your guys when there are urges and cravings and they thought they were doing really good? Maybe they're in the middle of reading your book and yet those urges and cravings come back. How do you help them to work through that?
Yeah. That is the question. Mm-hmm. What do I do when I'm in the middle of a trigger tornado or a shame storm or sexual thoughts and feelings that are overwhelming? I tell them to Boa. B-O-A. It's my last name. Maybe it's arrogant that I named the tool after myself, but I hope you remember it. B-O-A. I tell them to breathe. It is
simple, isn't it?
Yeah.
Drew Boa.
It's simple.
Boa
yeah.
it.
Yes. So breathe, because that is our superpower for self-regulation. Mm-hmm. It's the quickest, easiest, most effective way to bring your brain and body back into balance. So you can take deep, slow breaths. I've often found a lot of value as well in power breathing, or the Wim Hof method is an example of a more intense type of breath work that can also help to bring your system to a state where I don't need to act on those urges. Mm-hmm. It's not a magical cure, but it does create a little bubble where it plugs your brain back in. And anybody can do it anytime, anywhere. Mm-hmm. Even if all your recovery friends aren't answering the phone or you're in a crowd of people, you can still breathe. And the second step, O, observe, means to non-judgmentally notice what's coming up for you. Mindfulness, in other words.
Absolutely.
Paying attention. I'm feeling the urge to use porn right now. Or I wonder what's underneath that. Maybe I'm feeling lonely. Maybe I'm feeling anxious.
Be curious, right?
Yes,
be curious
exactly.
about what's going on in your body, heart, and mind.
Yeah. Instead of battling what's going on, befriending what's going on. That creates space to be with the arousal instead of just being aroused, to be with the fear instead of just being afraid. So that's the O. And then finally, attune is a fancier word that means I'm going to read and respond to the underlying needs. We can attune to another person. We can attune to ourselves. And in this case, I'm saying attune to yourself. What do I really need right now? And that's where we access the deeper desires. What underneath this arousal, what do I truly need in terms of relationships? Do I need to call a friend? Do I need to journal? Do I need to get outside? Do I need something that this type of porn symbolizes? Maybe the type of porn symbolizes excitement and adventure because my life has been so dull and dreary lately. Mm-hmm. Well, how can I meet that desire in a healthy way? That's attunement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a men's group for 17 years, and they would put together every series, because they were 12-week series, a list of things they could do to produce healthy dopamine.
Love that.
Which obviously is your attunement if your arousal template and your desires were based on adventure or risk or excitement or fun.
Yeah. All good things.
Yeah. And skydiving was a big one. There was always a couple of guys in the group that bonded together and said, let's do it. And actually, my sister, who has 36 years of recovery from alcohol, year 3, she and her AA friends did just that. And they all said the hero statement, I'm going to face my fears and do it anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And love those videos. You know, they are so smart when they're taking people out to videotape them before, during, and after, because it just reminds you of all that inner strength and wisdom that you have that you may not feel when that urge and craving comes back.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
Drew Boa, we have to begin to wrap it up. And I wanted you to talk about 3 things. I wanted you to talk about the summit because I think it's so profound. And I just loved being on it last year. I was the only woman on the summit, and it just was amazing because Drew had 3 or 4 speakers. All of us were from different parts of this issue and the world. And then you have this community, and about how many people are part of your free community?
Technically, we have over 7,000 members.
Wow.
I'd say about 1,500 are actively participating.
Okay. So 1,500 are actively participating. And how do they participate?
Yeah. They tell their stories. They ask questions. We celebrate our progress and we grieve our losses. We connect. We see it as a place where you can meet others who are on the same journey and then join a group or have a weekly phone call or join our program. It's a launching point.
So if they're reading your book, can they come into the community and through text or email or, can they ask technical questions like, how has my life contributed to the fantasies that I have pursued?
Yeah. So in our our free private husband material community, they can ask questions like that and get feedback from other members as well as from our leaders, some of whom are psychologists or counselors or experts in the field. And because it is private and confidential, there's an added level of safety. And then if they join our paid program, which is called Husband Material Academy, there's an even more higher level of commitment and safety involved because this is vulnerable and we don't just want to ask these questions anywhere to anyone.
Yeah. And I certainly have had many, many, many clients that I referred to Drew and the Academy and to his groups. And I have never met one, not one, that was unhappy or felt that they weren't understood.
Well, that's the hope. And I'm glad you haven't met one yet. It's not perfect. And we don't do everything. We help individual men. And when people are asking questions about how do I learn to create safety for my wife, I point them to Carol Sheets and help her heal and Urkum.
Oh, thank you so much. Because I love that. We just got done with an Urkum training and we're 256 clinicians and coaches strong.
Wow.
In Urkum training. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it really is. And, as I said, I was thinking actually about when you said that there are oftentimes attachment issues and people don't necessarily know who they are. And oftentimes they're attached to the wrong thing. I'm an IT guy at a hospital. Well, that's important, but that's not who you are. That's something you do well, but that's not who you are. And as I lean into retirement, I think to myself something that Patrick Carnes taught us to do, in our 3rd module, and that is that every one of our clients really at some point in their life should be looking at how can they leave a legacy and how can they give back.
Mm,
And I feel like your book is unique
mm.
because you send that message that there is hope from the beginning that they read it, and there's clear-cut tools. I'm going to ask you, what do you think is unique about your book, Outgrow Porn?
This is what I'm reading in all the Amazon reviews and all the feedback I'm getting. It's very, very practical. There are 14 different tools that you can do even on your own to start gaining momentum. I mean, a lot of books out there will talk about the theory, or they'll share a lot of stories, or they'll share like all the different ways to analyze addiction or truths. But when it comes to the practical step-by-step, now what? I think my book offers a lot of needed hand-holding, as well as stories of victory from men who are in the process and saying, here's what worked for me, and here's how I've been growing.
Mm-hmm. And of course, they can find your book on Amazon.com.
Right.
So would you tell us it's Outgrow Porn, find lasting freedom from porn without fighting an exhausting battle?
Yes, that's the name of the book. And they can also get it at outgrowporn.com to purchase it from me and get a free workbook included with free shipping.
I thought that workbook was in the making. You've got it done now?
It's already done. Yeah.
Fantastic. Because I'm a big one on workbooks. I believe that people do a great job of reading, but when they can put it into practice, it just solidifies what they need. Now, are you going to do an Audible and read the book?
Yes, that is on the plan for 2026.
Okay. Yeah, mine is too, for helping couples heal from infidelity and find love again. That's a 7, 8, 9 hour commitment in a studio, let alone the money. So
yeah,
we have to do it a step at a time, don't we?
We do.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting.
It is so exciting that you've done this book. And I would encourage anybody who even thinks they're struggling to read it, because of the tools, because of the tips, and because of the way it's written. It will not shame you. It'll give you hope that you can replace what you've been doing with healthier choices, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. I mean, you can just, you can do it.
Yes.
Is there anything else you want to tell our listening audience?
Just compassion. I mean, outgrowing porn is not like giving up chocolate or trying to work out more. It's like breaking up with somebody who's been there for you all your life.
Mm-hmm.
So nothing but gentleness, kindness, compassion, connection, and an appreciation for anybody who's on that journey.
So if you liked what Drew said, I want you to get the book, Outgrow Porn, but I also want you to go to his podcast, which is podcast.husbandmaterial.com.
Correct.
Okay. And he's got a lot of YouTube information, and I want you to go to youtube.com/husbandmaterial. There's that wonderful, I'm telling you, I know you meant that from the bottom of your heart, but what a wonderful way to reaffirm women that you're thinking of them when you're helping their guys.
I have my blind spots about how wives are impacted, and you're absolutely right that we always need to be considering the coupleship and a two-person psychology instead of just individuals.
Yeah, it is the new type of recovery where a man or a woman, I hate to be so gender exclusive, but somebody with problematic sexual behavior works on themselves individually while they work on their relationship. And that too has to be very slow, because there's been a lot of damage, a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, but you can get through things together when you work on things together. And, hey, Drew, did you hear that Help Her Heal has been adopted as 12-step material?
Whoa.
And now they have a 12-step group on Sunday nights that is through saa-recovery.org.
Congratulations. And what a great needed development.
Well, what I think it says the most is that they realize that this issue does really affect relationships, and they're willing to encourage men to help their wives heal through empathy. And who would have ever thought that could have happened, because 12-step has been so singularly focused, right?
Yeah.
Change is coming. And your book is part of it. So go to Amazon to get the book. You can go to his website, get the book and the workbook. Husbandmaterial.com is where you can join that community. Joinhma.com if you want to do a deeper dive into this issue. And maybe even if you think you got this and you want to be a good mentor to other men, that Husband Material is a great way to do that. And Drew has retreats. He has it all. So go to his website and just take a look at everything he has to offer. And Drew Boa, you are, you're a pioneer in this field in a whole different way. And I just said at the beginning, and I can't say it enough, part of it is your enthusiasm, your compassion. I love the mindfulness stuff because it's all about mindfulness. And it's your age. Although you're getting older now, you're still, you have plenty of energy to give back. So thank you so much for being who you are.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you for paving the way. I
appreciate it. First podcast in the world on sex addiction. What can I say? Not the best, but the first. All right. Thank you so much, Drew. And as I say at the end of every show, you know, there will only be one of you. So at all times, fearlessly have the courage to be yourself. Thank you so much. Take care, my friend.